Okay, so objections. Boy, oh boy, objections. I can remember when I was a wee pup and how I handled objections or didn't handle them. And I'm just going to say this tonight, really objections they can be fatal for new people, honestly, they can. You know, one objection could put somebody out of the business. There's no question about it. Or they could be the pathway to discovering what it is someone really is looking for and help you to provide what they need so that they can make a decision to see how GIA or our products can help them. And so what I plan to do tonight is begin by playing a cut from the GoPro, Eric Ward's GoPro book. He has a section about objections that I've listened to over and over again. And I think it's really good to set the foundation for our conversation tonight. And then once it's over, we're going to come back and we're going to talk about objections. And really, there's only a few. There's not a ton of objections. In fact, you get the same objections over and over and over and over again. So that's the good news. If you learn a technique to handle objections and you start hearing the same ones over again, this becomes a whole lot easier. So what we'll do after we're done listening to the audio is just have some of our folks that are on tonight talk about what they do, the different ways that they handle objections. And I know Ming last week with you and Sue got a lot of comments about how great it was that you were just sharing the things that you say and having people hear what you say was so good, and have it recorded so they can go back and listen to it. And that's what I'm really excited about tonight, is they're going to record Eric Worre and then record some of the things that you say that might be specific to GIA. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to play the recording. I don't know if it's going to go through my computer or it's going to go through my speakers. And Sue, if you can just let me know what the sound is like and if it's okay or if I have to change something, because I didn't test it out. But let's go check this out.
Questions and objections. At every step in the recruiting process, you'll come across questions and objections. This is natural. A lot of the time, your prospect will just be bringing them up to sound intelligent. They don't want to seem easy, so they throw out objections to feel better. How you respond is extremely important. If you act defensive, you'll plant a seed of doubt in their minds. If you act offensive, you'll chase them away. Remember, our goal is education and understanding. It's not to win an argument. Our job is to help blind people see. When someone brings up a negative question, or if they offer you an objection, all they're really doing is helping you to identify one of their blind spots. It's helpful to know what these are so you can assist your prospects in eliminating them. I'm going to give you some specific tactics to help overcome objections, but the thing I want you to remember and spend more time focusing on are concepts. Tactics come and go. Concepts are timeless. I found that objections fall into one of two categories. The first is the prospect's limiting belief in their abilities. They aren't sure they can be successful. The second is a limiting belief in network marketing. They aren't sure network marketing will help them achieve their goals in life. For both categories, one of the best concepts is empathy, how you relate to people. And the best way I know to relate to people is to let them know you're just like they are. You had the same doubts, the same questions, the same fears, and you overcame them. Believe it or not, your story and the stories of others will do more for you in overcoming objections than anything else. There's an old tactic called feel, felt, found. It works with the concept of empathy. When a prospect offers an objection, you respond with, "I know how you feel. I felt the same way. But here's what I found." You can use that quite literally and with great success. You can also modify it based upon your story and your prospect. When prospects have a limiting belief in their abilities, the common objections in this category are, "I don't have the money. I don't have the time. It's not my thing. I'm not a salesperson. I don't know anyone. Or I'm too old, too young, have no experience," etc. Some people teach fancy approaches where you make yourself seem smart and the prospect seems stupid. "You don't have any money? Do you have a cable bill? Do you have a cell phone? Do you ever go out to dinner? You have lots of money. Come on, wake up." Or, "You don't have the time? How long do you want to have that reality in your life? You have to change if you want your life to change." How does it feel when you hear that? How would it feel if someone were to say it to you? Pretty bad, right? A better approach is to relate to the person and tell your story. When a person tells me, "I just don't have the money right now," I respond, "I had the same exact challenge. I didn't have enough money to pay my bills, let alone start a new business. But when I thought about it, I realized if I didn't have enough money to pay my bills now, how was I going to change that in the future?" I was tired of being behind. I was tired of scrambling. I wanted more out of life. So you know what I did? I found a way. And it was the best decision I ever made. Let me ask you something. If you really felt this was a chance for you to take control of your financial future, do you think you could find a way to make it happen? 9 times out of 10, they would agree they could find a way. Again, forget the exact words and focus on the concept. I told them I was the same as they were, with the same objection. I told them about my pain, and I told them I found a way to solve it. As a result, we bonded. We related to each other. We were in the same boat with the same hopes and dreams. And if I didn't have a personal story that would compare with theirs, I would tell another person's story. There are plenty of stories inside your company that can relate to virtually every situation. So when a prospect tells you their objection, you can say, I know what you mean. I have a friend who had that same exact problem, and let me tell you their story. Can you see how that approach would work with all the objections based on a person's limiting belief about themselves and their lives? The concept is simple, it's proven, and the results are amazing. When people have limiting beliefs about network marketing, this category includes, is this MLM? Is this one of those things? Is this a pyramid scheme? I'm not interested in MLM. I don't want to bother my friends. And how much are you making? Let's start with the one that strikes fear into the hearts of most people in our profession. Is this MLM? Or variations like, is this one of those things? Or is this a pyramid scheme? Or I'm not interested in MLM. Some people go a little crazy when they hear this question. They say, pyramid scheme, like every corporation in the world, like the government? You mean that? Instead of going crazy on your prospects, it's important to understand where this question comes from. My experience has shown me that they usually knew someone who joined with no success, or else they've done it themselves. Usually they just purchased a virtual lottery ticket like I described earlier and it didn't pay off. This scenario represents well over 90% of the people who will ask this kind of question. The rest of them have heard of opportunities like this and are rightfully skeptical of the promise of getting rich quick. If they ask this kind of question with any sort of emotion, I know they've been involved at some point. So I say, wait a minute. You have a story. What happened? Were you involved in network marketing at some point? Then just let them tell you their story. It opens them up. It lowers their defenses. And it allows you to ask some questions about their experience. Let me give you a typical example. I'm going through my invitation process when the prospect says, wait a minute, is this MLM? And they say it with emotion. I reply, oh, you have a story. Did you try it out at some point? What happened? They say, yeah, I joined a company a few years ago, bought some product and lost my money. I reply, what do you think was the reason you didn't have success? They say, well, my friend talked me into it. I didn't have a lot of time, and I thought more people would join right away, but they didn't. I guess I just lost interest. I reply, do you think you really gave it a fair shot? They say, no, not really. I reply, do you think network marketing was the problem, or do you think maybe your timing wasn't right? They say it was probably the timing. Do you see the dynamic? I've had thousands of these conversations, and they're all slightly different. But if you ask some questions and are friendly through the process, you have a strong opportunity to help them get rid of their blind spot and take a look at what you have to offer. In addition, you can relate to them by saying you had the same objection initially and telling them how you overcame it. If someone uses the word pyramid with me, I always say, oh no, pyramid schemes are illegal, and I would never be involved with something illegal. For people asking this with emotion attached, I usually respond with, yes, this is network marketing. Do you know anything about it? Again, I'm asking questions and waiting for answers. From those answers, I ask more questions, and through the process, I can achieve my goal of education and understanding. I don't want to bother my friends is slightly different. Again, I relate to them by telling my story or somebody else's story. And then I ask questions like, what makes you think you'd be bothering your friends? If you truly believed in the product, would you let your friends know about it? And if I could show you how we can share this product with others without it feeling or sounding like a sales pitch, would that help you? The last in this category is, how much are you making? If you're making money already, this is a great question. If you're not, your answer depends on how long you've been involved. If you're brand new, you can tell them you're just getting started. If you've been around for a while and not making big money yet, you can tell them you're working part-time and are really excited about your future. You could also say that you're excited about your future with this company because you knew things weren't going to change if you didn't do something to change them. The other way to answer it is to tell your story and then tell stories of people you know who are making good money. You can even suggest setting up a phone conversation with those people so they can feel more comfortable about the opportunity. All of this takes practice, but if you get the concepts down, you'll find it becomes easy. And the other thing that should encourage you, is you'll only have this handful of the same objections for the rest of your career. There's nothing new here. What I've listed in this section is about all there is. Remember, our goal is education and understanding. This is a part of the process that makes that goal a reality.
All right. I love that. You know, what he started with always sets me free, the idea that our goal is to educate and gain understanding. I think that was the thing that set me free in 1995 when I finally got that I didn't have to be a salesperson. I didn't have to know it all. And my job wasn't to sell someone on joining me or buying the products. And I think it's just so simple once you get that. And then the idea about asking questions and telling stories, that set me free also. That I didn't have to know everything. And really questions have been the way that I've gotten through life, really, is just ask questions and listen. And I don't like to be put on the spot. I don't like to have to know everything, but if I ask questions, then I know where to go, where to head with someone. I was just imagining as I was listening to it, doing a presentation with someone or talking to them on the phone and not having them ask a question or have an objection, what that would be like. It would be strange. It would be one-sided. And so I really look at objections and questions as a guidepost, really. And I know that there are a couple of you on tonight that are very passionate about the idea. I know, Ming, you have a lot of fun with, I don't even know if the word is handling objections. It's really not, that's not the right word for it. But I know you do a lot of great things, and I know, Kedzie, you are passionate about, we've talked about this before. So what I'd like to do maybe is talk about some of the objections. Let me start off first with you, Ming. Instead of doing that, he named some of the objections, and there's only a few. There's not even 20 or 30. There's just a couple, and he named a few of them. I wrote a few of them down, but just give us your overall idea about handling objections.
Thanks, John. You know what? It was so funny when you texted me this morning. I actually was voice to texting because I was so excited about this topic I had. So I do have some real thoughts on it. And I love what Eric Worre said about helping blind people see. One of the things I like to look at and think about with handling objections is, first of all, that we can use objections to build relationship. I love what he said about empathy. So just really an important piece. Also, that objection questions. We can get so flustered with objections, and if we realize.
Okay. So
the questions they're asking with the objection. The other.
Hey, Ming, I'm going to interrupt.
Better at.
Ming, hold on.
Can you hear me?
It's going in and out, so you're serving in and out for some reason. See if you can get in a better spot or put your arm up in the air or something like that. No? Okay, we'll wait till she gets to a better spot. This is a new house you're seeing in the background, I think, right, Ming?
I was going to say, John, what a beautiful home she's got there, isn't it?
Wow, look at that. You got to have a great view out of that room, I know for sure.
Okay. Let's see. Yep, here I'm going back in my bedroom. Here we go. So, so hopefully this will be a little bit better. Actually listening with the ears of your heart, and I really mean this, actually listening, because somebody with an objection, and I'm going to, maybe I should talk a little specifically first. I say that objections are in 4 categories. I know Eric Worre says 2. It really helps me to not get overwhelmed when I realized an objection is going to be about the products, meaning it's a question. It's going to be about the company, meaning it's a question. It's going to be a personal or doubt about that the person has about themselves and their abilities. And that's going to come in a way that I can help them see who they are. Or it's going to come as a doubt about network marketing. So if you realize that those are really the 4 categories, then you can get kind of excited, okay, which category is it? And what do I need to just fortify or shore up that for that person? And I mean, Eric said stories for sure. I mean, I've got a couple other things to say too, but I'll just give you a break here, John.
Okay, great. Well, I appreciate that. Kathy, I want to come to you now because I know you're passionate about this, and I think we've talked about this on another Zoom some time ago. Why are you so passionate about questions and objections?
Well, I mean, Ming has an inimitable way of summing it up and boiling it down, and I love the organization of that. So I just wanted to acknowledge that, which makes me start moving my wheels here in my head. But you and I have talked about it. Part of the passion is because let's say the people that I'm working with in my team or new people, et cetera, are daunted so easily. It's like, what? That got you? You know, that's my Jersey girl coming out. I'm sorry. I've been here a lot. I've been here a third of the year, so it's all kind of coming back. But I feel like that instantly, or at like the first level, I go, really? That got you? To me, I think of it as, like Ming was saying, if you boil it down, I'll give you another example, really, sort of a metaphorical or another way of looking at it. So I work long distance with people, and I say, okay, write down, ahead of time, email me or whatever. We'll go over your questions. Okay. I usually say maybe 5 or 6. Sometimes I get 25. Well, if you boil that down, it really is the 5 or 6 or 4 or 3. But people think they spread them out and they think they're all different, that they have 25 separate problems. But it's really, really boiling down to the handful that we're talking about here. And then if you have those solid passions, let's just call them passions for each category, that you've got the little formula for each category. You've got a few just like testimonials, but let's say the same way you think about testimonials, you think about the objections. You're going to give a story for each category of objections. But I am passionate because I think that people are seeing them as separate problems, but they're really not.
That's a good point, that people have maybe 25, like you said, there's 25 or 30 questions, but they all boil down to just a couple. And that if we can learn first of all, if we can ask questions and tell stories, and then maybe learn a few things that you can say to help them or refer them to someone else, you'll be able to deal with questions and objections very easily. So we're going to come back to you because we're going to talk about specific answers for specific objections. Sue Gromberg, I want to come over to you and ask you this question. Now, when I started in network marketing, it seemed like I was getting the same objections over and over and over again. And then at some point, I learned that I was getting those objections. In fact, I knew I was going to get those objections from people almost every single time before I even made a phone call or talked to them. And I didn't know why that was happening. Did that ever happen to you?
Well, yeah, it has happened to me, and it's because I was afraid I was going to get those objections, and they came right at me. So once I stopped being afraid of them, actually, many of them went away. But I wanted to say something about what Ming was saying, too, is that one of the things I like to do when I get an objection, and I think it's part of continuing to to build trust, is that I like to thank people for asking me or giving me their trust to be open enough to trust me with their opinions and their thoughts. And it sort of is a little disarming for them not to realize right away they're not going to have somebody put a wall up between or get go into a defense mode around what they think if it's an objection, but literally move into the relationship with them and start asking the questions after you thank them for trusting in you enough to share their opinions and go forward with a question that's appropriate or a story, or letting them know, as Eric Worre says, you're just like them. And you've had feelings or what you've found, I think is really important, and it makes it so much easier. So that's, and so we have to stop being afraid of getting the objection, no matter what it is. Otherwise, you're going to keep getting them over and over and over again.
What I found about that, Sue, is that I discovered that it was an objection that I had myself. So I had I didn't know about marketing. All I knew was people had told me over years about it, or multi-level marketing. And so I had an objection. And because I had that objection, for some reason, I kept getting it from everybody. But once I was able to get clear of that, I never heard, in fact, I still don't even hear that objection anymore because I'm so crystal clear on what it is and how it works. So if some of you are getting the same objections over and over again, it's very possible that it's an objection that you have yourself. And if you realize that, then you can go in and find out the information you need to solve that question in you, and then you won't get that very much anymore. What I'd like to do now is let's take a look at, maybe Ming, I'll come back to you, and I want to ask you, what do you think is the #1 objection that you've gotten in your GIA career? What's the #1 objection, do you think?
Well, I want to reinforce what you just said. Earlier on, it was network marketing, and that was because of some of my own sort of doubts, fears, and things around network marketing. So that is right on. Whatever objections you're getting, use that as a mirror to shore up your stories, like Eric Worre said, lots of stories around those as well. I mean, so early on, it was network marketing, and I will just say it was actually owning my own network marketing experience, and that means actually whether I did very well early on in network marketing. I mean, my first 3 months, I earned a bunch of money, but what I'm meaning is I could share the stories of people who were earning a couple extra $100 per month. And I started to, really what I needed to do was just claim that network marketing was making a difference. I mean, claim that really for myself, that network marketing was making the difference, is making the difference in our lives. And I think the real pivot for me was the year and a half where I wasn't able to work. And I made $65,000 in GIA Wellness that year, and I had worked about 3 hours a week and not really sponsored anybody to speak of much, and I realized that this was a full-on profession. What I'm hoping is that people learn this and can believe it sooner than that. Even their first $100, $200 check, they realize the power of it. So network marketing, I think, probably the objections that I get, or the questions, are questions about products in the company. And I think this is actually some of probably my favorite topic. And that might be why, I roll around in it. And I actually love getting these questions because I really feel, like Eric Worre said, it's showing the prospects blind spots. Consumers are overwhelmed out there. People, even, let's say it's somebody looking to align themselves with a company, they need to know why GIA is unique. They need to understand these things. And so using objections to build relationship is really key. The other is that when I encounter those objections, one of the big things I used to do was I felt powerless and I felt like they had the power. It's absolutely the opposite. They're expressing the objection because they have doubt, and doubt is self-limiting for them. People don't like to feel limited, so they will try to offload that on you by, coming up with an objection. What we can do for them, though, is literally help build that bridge for them to cross over so they can achieve the kind of freedom that we have. So that's a little bit. If you want to talk specifically about some doubts or some objections, then definitely ask me.
Sure. I wanted to go back to your story though about the story you told about not being able to work for a year and the income that you created from network marketing. I'm hoping that all of you understand that would be a good story to tell someone, Ming's story. And it's not a very long story, but if you can just remember or get it down, what happened with Ming, she got into network marketing and didn't know a lot about it. She was very successful and became one of the top leaders in the company, but then she couldn't work. I don't know how long it was at least over a year.
Yep.
And because of that, she was able to maintain her family and create an income. She had created an income, and that's really what network marketing is about. So it's a story that could help people to really see the possibilities. And there are so many other stories that we have, and the key thing is that you kind of pay attention and maybe even jot down a few stories. And when you're at events and talking to other GIA folks, make sure you get their stories down so that you can share those with other people. So Ming, your situation is a lot about the products and the more validation and questions about that. Let me ask Kedzie, what are your most ongoing objections that you hear from your group and from people that you are working with?
I think the top one for my group at large would be financial.
Okay. Can you say what it would sound like, what that question or objection would sound like?
I don't have the money right now.
Okay.
Or another big one, I have to think about it. And I just have to say something here. I'm in a region where people earn a lot more money to even live here in general. And I may have mentioned this already, and I did a booth a week ago, and all of my products, except for the pendant example or sample, they were gone. Hundreds of dollars were going off the table. People were throwing their credit card at me. I don't have that experience in Arizona. So I'm taking a look at, is that me or is it the region? So I'm like looking at that right now because I lived here forever and I had great business success out here. So I know where Marge lives. I did a comparison one time of the median income there where she is up north in Arizona, and then another town that was also activating water and selling it by the gallon. 3 times the difference in the income was 3 times less where Marge is. So, but I've helped Marge navigate, for an example, I've helped Marge navigate through how to work with people who are either retired, earning a lot less money, et cetera, et cetera. And so we've really limited, I'm not going to say eliminated, we've limited those objections. And so in doing so, we've become very creative around that. And I can't think of an example exactly right now, but, being creative around that. So literally working with the person, not getting into, literally I had an upline somewhere else in my universe that used to say, how much money do you have in your bank account right now? I mean, it was like the hand was reaching out around your neck. I've seen so many different approaches from that extreme to running, to literally people running away from the so-called objections. So I think creativity and sensitivity, but not buying what they're selling.
Okay.
I don't agree with buying what they're selling.
What your prospect is selling.
Yeah, I don't agree with that. I agree with navigating in a creative way, more and getting into a deeper conversation, even diverting, even changing the subject a little bit and getting around it, and then maybe circling back to value, really creating value. I just had a 3-way with Laura tonight. First objection was, it's so expensive. She's ending up buying because it's a value thing.
So how many of you are on the screen have had the objection, I can't afford it? Anybody? I'm sure all 28 people on here, if they've talked to anybody, would have that objection. So who would like to volunteer and tell us, maybe you've got your arm, you want to tell us what you would say to someone?
Well, could I just say one thing? I want to kind of unpack the objection around finances a little bit.
Right.
One is, I think it's a really good time to ask more questions if they say I don't have the money, because there's a couple things that you can do. You could ask something like, can I just ask you, if you did have the money, would you want to get started today? What that's going to do is absolutely reveal if they have other objections as well, and whether that financial objection is just a smokescreen they're throwing up. So that's one. Another is, when I get the money objection, the way I interpret it is it means that I haven't created enough value for them yet. So what I want to do is, rather than push value at them, because I don't know exactly where those pieces are missing, where the blind spots are, I'm going to ask them questions about what has got them most interested and intrigued about what they are, about what they've seen, about what they want. I'm going to take it right back to what they were excited about wanting, not about the fear about the credit card or telling the husband or whatever that is right now. I'm going to take it back to try to re-engage them with the emotions they were feeling when they were excited. And I want to go back and explore that with them a little bit. And, whether it's around the products, whether it's around the freedom of being able to maybe create, an additional income, or aligning with an amazing company with, global phenomenal woman at the helm, whatever those things are, I'm going to go back and just nurture that and get them talking more about that. And I'll share stories related to those things that they're excited about, and maybe get on a three-way or something like that. That's what I would do, is you're going to shore up the things that they're intrigued and interested by.
Would you agree that to be able to handle this objection and do the things you're talking about, that you would have to have a belief that there's a lot of value here, and a belief that people do have the money? Is that something you need to believe yourself, that they do have the money and that there is value here for them? Yeah,
I would say yes. I mean, I would say yes, because otherwise why would we be doing it? I mean, is there hopefully?
Well, I guess that what I was trying to say is, if you didn't believe that, then it would be hard to help someone through their process if you didn't believe the value was here yourself, or if you believe that everybody didn't have money. And there is this global idea, depending on where you've come from and what your background is, that there's this global idea that people don't have money, and it's just not true. And I think
people have so much money. Oh my God.
They're buying things all the time, and they're buying things that they value. And it's something I think that Kezzy just talked about, that where she's at now, people are buying, and people buy everywhere. And so I'm glad, Kezzy, you're exploring the idea that, hey, is it the different locations, which it could be part of it, or is it me that I have a different attitude about this place compared to my experiences in another place? But just let me tell you that when people see value, they will buy. They will find a way. Donald.
I can see on this. If I offered you a VW, well, VW is what the demonstration was, but a brand new car, and all you had to do was come up with, it was a 2015 car or whatever it is, and you had to come up with $1,000 within the next 24 hours, would you do it? And you would. So we actually have to have an inherent commitment to people's ability to create their lives the way they see it. Mm-hmm. And to make the volition or use their resources to make sure something happens. So wherever they are living, they can never have money. I was dealing with somebody like this the other day, and she kept saying, well, this is way too expensive. Now, she spent about $500 worth of stuff, and I stopped there. But I could have, I meant not that I forced her, but she really needed at least that, and she needs more stuff. But she kept complaining enough, and after a while I realized it was just a mantra she had in her mind. It wasn't really what was true. She just told me, I've had the best month I've ever had in what I'm doing. I mean, she was doing all that, but there's this thought in the back of it. So the thing is to have faith in people and what they can do and create when they're powerful. And our goal is to make them powerful.
I think what you're saying is, I think of it as a pendulum. And so when you begin, the products and the money, it's not equal. And as they see the value, it gets closer and closer to being equal. And then sometimes it even goes over where the value is more than what they're going to spend. And that's by helping them go through the process. So I think those are all good concepts and ideas. The next one I want to bring up is one that I think comes out a lot of the time is, hey, I have no time. Anybody get that one? Especially when you're talking about people who are joining you and you want them to help you to build your business and work with you. How do you handle the I don't have time objection? Anybody want to volunteer for that one? Sue Johnson?
Well, I jump in with Tracy Hillis' story, actually. I have a friend that's spinning 6 or 7 plates who's rise the ranks in our company and is a budding leader. and she spins 7 plates and added 1 more, you know, with the knowledge that she's moving in the direction that this will be her path to financial freedom. Tracy tells the story way better than I do, and that just kind of throw it out there, but yeah.
I think it's a great story, and I think you have your own story. You were a business owner, an entrepreneur when you started GIA, and you certainly didn't have the time. I know you're working full-time in your store, so I think you have a good story too. And so it comes back to asking questions and telling stories, asking questions and telling stories. And even, you know, another good way to do it is that, I mean, you could hook someone up with Tracy on a three-way phone call so they can hear it personally. So that's a great one.
And I also ask the questions, John, you know, what is it that's occupying your time? You know, before I get into Tracy's story, but, you know, find out why they're so busy. And of course, asking questions.
Perfect. Me?
You know what, I'll ask questions because I do get that, but I'm going to tell you is that objection is like a blanket for a whole bunch of stuff. So it's really a time to ask the question, like, what do you see? You know, and basically I need to dig a little bit about, you know, first of all, what they're interested in. Like, are they, you know, are you saying that you do want to share this with people, or, you know, you want to create income? I've got to find out what they're interested in doing and what they actually think it's going to take. So that's some of it, is to just ask a little bit of those questions, and they're going to, you know, if they think it takes hours a week, I mean, this or that. And so that's some of it. And I really think, and I, you know, so much of this process of consulting with people and helping them come on board, and I think Linda Cormier teaches this, it's literally how people feel in our presence that's going to make the difference of them, you know, joining us, sticking with us, whatever those, you know, those things are. So it's helping them through that. So if someone thinks it's, you know, that it's going to take 40 hours a week, there's a way that, yes, what I do is I shared very often Debbie Gwynn's story. Debbie Gwynn is Sue Gromberg's sponsor. She did this business part-time for about 6 months. And, you know, that sponsored Dawn and Sue Gromberg, Brenda Sarignana. She's got some holistic vets. And she does nothing except for collect her automatic reorder. I have to, you know, chase her down if I ever, you know, want to get a hold of her, and I can't because she's too busy. But she has, you know, never not earned a check with GIA, and she's earned, I don't know how much, many $100,000, you know, over the years by doing nothing. So, but I sometimes even share that, you know, she runs, you know, sometimes close to $100,000 worth of volume through her organization or more, you know, in a month. And so I'll just share stories that help people see the picture.
I think this one is a good example of someone asking a question, but they're asking the question, and it sounds like an objection. I mean, when you're talking to someone about doing this with us, and they don't really have an idea of how much time it really takes. And so they can either say, well, how much time is that going to take? Or they could say, I just don't have time. And that's what Ming is talking about. And if you have the thought that, hey, they can't do it because it takes too much time, then you're going to get that objection. So really telling a story, like Ming's talking, it's really asking questions and telling stories. I mean, that's really what Eric Ward is talking about. Sue Gromberg?
Yeah, John, this is when I first started with Debbie Gwynn and Ming, and I really had no intention of doing another business. We already had plenty of business activity going on. And when I get that objection, or it's not really an objection, it's just like saying, oh my gosh, this is so exciting, but I just really don't have any time to do another thing. And I get excited to hear that, because I say, you know, I use the feel, felt, found, because I say, you know, I actually had that same feeling when I got started, because I had so many businesses and so many things going on. And I said, you know what? I found that busy people have lots of friends and they're always talking to people. And I said, you know, if I see a really great movie, I never hesitate to tell somebody that they got to go see this movie because I want them to have the same experience. And I found that was happening to me with GIA. I had no intention of creating any kind of additional business. And I worked GIA very part-time when I first got started, but I was just bringing it up into the nooks and crannies of my life, talking to people. And the next thing I knew, for very, very part-time, I made $34,000 in that 1 year where I was doing nearly no GIA. And we took a look at it, and it became a financial boom for us, especially during the downturn in the economy. So that's what I did with my no time.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up creating a lifetime business and lots of great friends. And that's what I tell people, and they go, oh, okay. And the next thing you know, they'll just say, well, okay, I'll get started and I'll see what happens.
I think
and so that's how story I tell.
And now everybody else can tell your story. Hang on, Ted, you'll be right there. So everybody else can tell your story now if they don't have their own story. And what I wanted to say is that you're not going to get just one question or one objection. You might get 3 or 4, and having these responses and these stories in place that you're just going to be able to talk about, it'll just like flatten out those mountains and the valleys. It really does. Kezzy.
Really quick, I want to tell about Karen Grant. First thing out of her mouth was, and you heard her say this, I didn't want one more thing. See, it was her continuous just push button play. That's what she kept saying. And there she broke that glass ceiling in 9 months to presidential director. So, I didn't want to do one more thing. That was her expression. But she knew how amazing her life was becoming with her health, that she just kept saying it, but doing another, saying one thing and doing the other.
Mm-hmm. Me?
One of the things I'll do again is I'll just, and this, I will use their words back. Like you've shared with me that you're excited about this, like the products. You shared with me that actually you wanted to, you want to share this with your cousin or your brother-in-law, or that you've got, people in your mind you're thinking of. And you've shared with me that you don't, you're concerned about how much time it is. I will ask them, what would you like it to look like for you? And let them talk a little bit about that. And then what I may do is step into that gap and say, it doesn't, you're interested, or you're interested in sharing with those few people. You can share, and when I share Debbie Gwynn's story or, another story, here's what can happen for you. That it usually is enough to help them step over that objection. And, when I say, look, I'm going to link arms with you, I'm going to help you, we're going to help you. GIA Wellness has a, comprehensive program for helping you get started, get oriented and things. So you'll get to decide those things, as it goes. And I say that knowing that once they taste it, and once they start getting checks, once they sponsor someone or 2, 3, and they get their team expansion bonus, and, of course, they know they're going to be excited by team expansion bonus, abundance club, those things, and go for them, then they're going to have some of their own traction that's going to cause that objection will go away somewhat for them. And but that's it. But I've linked arms with them and promising to link arms with them. And that's it, is one of the things about objections. Sometimes we think they're huge berms, and they're just little speed bumps.
Yep.
They're really little things. All we need to do is help to get them, like Eric Worre said, just get to the other side of the objection. And you might be surprised at how fast it goes away, and they get excited.
Where that's coming from. Well, we're
Kathy
getting
Hawkins.
We're getting towards the end. What is it, Sue?
Kathy Hawkins is unmuted.
Okay. Kathy, did you have something you wanted to share? Okay, got that. Thanks, Sue. Well, we are getting to the end tonight, and I want to thank everybody for sharing, and I'm hoping this is helpful. We'll have other calls that will talk about the way we say things and the different ideas, and I'm hoping that from tonight, a couple of things came out. Number one is that if you're getting an objection or the same question over and over again from different people, it's very likely that it might be a question that you have. And I'm going to suggest that if you're listening or you're watching this video and you've kind of pinpointed that, to get a hold of your upline leader and talk to them about that. Because all it's going to take is just a little bit of education, and that objection will totally go away. And there's different things that we can help you do to remove that objection. And then just really learning how to tell stories, how to ask questions, and and doing three-way phone calls and helping people. And I think that I'm going to come back to what Eric said in the beginning. It's about educating and helping people to gain understanding. It's not about selling them. It's not about closing them. It's really just helping them to get enough information to get to the next exposure, to help them to see the puzzle pieces come together for them. That's really it. That's what we're talking about tonight. So that's it for me tonight. It's a great time to be a part of GIA. I'm going to have this recording up tomorrow, and it'll always be available for people to listen to Eric Worre and to listen to some of your comments tonight. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it.